You know what we're talking about today. What we talking about, E40? You tell them.
Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
So, Bab, you're feeling good.
I am feeling actually really good, especially
Put the
for
gloves on in studio.
You hear this? Those are my Nike Vapor Jet receivers gloves that I actually fell asleep on my couch in last night, along with my jersey, my shoes. Let's just say it was a celebration yesterday.
Yeah.
And man, the game was what every Niner fan could have hoped for.
Right. And it sort of exceeded our expectations. We all thought, well, it might be a repeat of that regular season game when those two met. And then it went even past that. It felt like, at least, as far as the chunky yards that the Niners picked up, just the way they ate up this Green Bay defense and didn't play into their hand. Like Green Bay, if they've got something going defensively, they can rush the passer. They'll get after a quarterback. We've got some guys who can get sacks. Niners said, okay, well, we'll throw it 8 times.
Yeah.
And see how well you deal with that. Meanwhile, instead, racking up 200 and what for Mostert?
220 for Mr. Radio Raheem Mostert.
4 touchdowns. God, 4 touchdowns. Who's the Niner with more touchdowns in a playoff game?
Oh. That's Jerry Rice.
No.
Technically, yes.
Well, Steve Young was 6.
Rushing is what I screwed up on getting specific with, since we were talking about Mostert.
Colin Kaepernick.
No.
No?
Last time the Niners went to the Super Bowl, when Ricky Waters racked up 6 of them on the ground. Correct?
6 and no, because Steve Young threw for 6.
Steve Young threw for 6, but Ricky's is, let's go with Ricky Waters.
You can't have 12 touchdowns in a game.
No. It's his, I think he had, what? Then it's not that playoff game. Let's go Ricky Waters, single game TDs. And
while we're looking at that,
yes,
we can say that the Packers...
It's 5. It was 5, okay.
The Packers had none yesterday in the first half while we're looking at touchdown stats.
5 for Ricky Waters. Correction. Did not get 6, but it was 5. 5 touchdowns in one game.
But Raheem Mostert does now hold the title for most rushing yards in any game by San Francisco 49ers. So if you think of all the great running backs, going back to Roger Craig, even Frank the Tank Gore, who was the bell cow and would eat up yards and get them for you. And this was the most in a playoff game since Colin Kaepernick gashed who? These Green Bay Packers for 181 yards.
So Aaron Rodgers, Chris, 31 to 39, 326 yards, a couple touchdowns, a couple INTs. And really, Devontae Adams, this 9 catches for 138 that felt quiet. Like they put up some numbers and everything, but what was the difference? Why couldn't they punch it in the end zone? Why couldn't they hang with the Niners in this game while racking up some yards?
The Niners simply just outplayed them.
Okay.
It was just a simple ground and pound. Niners went with it, and seems like it's been this entire playoffs for every team that's come out with a win is coming out with just rushing the ball. Garoppolo and the Niners came away with the Tannehill and Titans recipe for success. Garoppolo threw for 8 times. Mostert ran for, 238? 220
on 29 carries.
So they just fed them.
Yeah.
Under 10 times you're throwing the ball in a conference championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just simply outplaying the Packers. They did not come out of the bus. Yeah. I think the bodies were still left in. It was just that bad. The Packers, and like I've said before all season, this is not a 13-3 Packer team.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the TV show on the Herd this morning, talking about with him. Is this Packers team, have they been overrated all season? And I feel like they have. I feel like this just isn't a complete Packers team. And the fact that they even got here in the first place, hats off. But at the same time, everyone knew that it was the Niners game to lose, and they came away with the win.
Yeah, I think it's a product of playing in that NFC North, I guess, that got them to this 13-3. Steven, a formula you didn't think could work. The Trent Dilfer formula works for your Niners yesterday.
It does. And it's not that I didn't think it could work. It's just that I thought they would do more to take away the run.
Yeah.
And so I just not that it couldn't work by running the ball, because we've seen the Niners be able to do that. We just saw it last week. But you were mentioning the Packers stats. Those are almost all second half
There's
stats.
a lot of second half yards. Yeah.
They had 83 yards in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
The Niners put up 246. Like that, and they also had the ball time possession. I think was about a tick under 16 minutes in the first half, which means they just dominated the ball, and they did that by their longest drive was 3 minutes and 42 seconds. They were just gashing chunk yards, great field position. They won on special teams too. Don't forget, all three phases of this Niner game yesterday was won over the Packers, and they scored after they went 3-and-out the first drive, and then they scored their next 5 possessions.
Yeah,
just took the heart out. It was disrespectful by halftime. It was straight disrespect.
Yeah, when you look through this Packers schedule this year, like, okay, they had some good victories early on, but then, they've got losses in San Diego, and then they beat the Chiefs, strangely. So there's some games, there are other losses that whomping at the hands of the Niners. So, then again, the Niners had that one against the Falcons. Each had that one where it's like, how'd that get in there? Yeah. Like, wait a minute. That didn't make any sense. But yeah, it just seemed like it was kind of what we thought about Adams as well, that he had that one deep ball, but by then we're into the second half, right?
Yes.
We're into the second half.
That was more than half of his yards right there.
Yeah, right
that
there.
One pass.
So we're well into the second half when he catches that one deep ball. Otherwise, he's an around the line of scrimmage receiver. He's a bubble and slant sort of guy, or deep ball. It's like very extreme with him. He's not necessarily the work of the middle type. Jimmy Graham at 459, okay, but we've seen the age catch up to him big time. Your thoughts on the 6 for 8? I mean, it's almost baffling, and then makes perfect sense at the same time. Steven, how do you grasp this?
And last week we mentioned it on the show when they ran the ball 12 times in a row against that Vikings defense. They did it 13 times in a row yesterday. And, we mentioned last week, Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo will take exactly what the defense will give them. And they'll make adjustments. And he didn't need to throw the ball. Yeah. I mean, 27-0 at halftime. And he ends the game with 8 pass attempts. He completed 6 of them, great percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
But he just didn't need to do it.
No.
And when you have your offensive line and your tight end, George Kittle, you got Kyle Juszczyk, they live to run the ball, and they live to just smash that front 7 of the defense in the mouth.
Yeah.
And when you have guys that are happy doing that, there's no ego. Nobody cares about catching passes. You got Deebo Samuel out there flattening DBs.
Yeah.
Flattening DBs in that run game. And he's, getting excited off of that, which means, when it is time for his number to get called, that's why Jimmy completed 6 of his 8 passes,
right,
is because he had great guys to throw him to. But they were all in and all bought in on the game plan yesterday. And that was just murder this front 7.
Yeah, so you mentioned the first possession was the punt, and then boom, it was on from there. And that next drive, that scoring drive, Garoppolo, 16 yards to Samuel, 5 yards for Mostert, 30 yards for Samuel, 6 more for Mostert, and then, a 36-yard touchdown for Mostert. Again, just those big chunk yards. Field goal, touchdown, an interception in between for Green Bay in there. And that's Mosley on that pick. And this game had, I want to try to find some turning points, Chris, is what I'm looking for. Like, okay, where did this all go awry? Where did this change? It's still on the bus, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was that the problem? The turning point was the kickoff.
The good teams adjust, and after the first quarter, it was 17-0, and you're the best. You're one of the best teams, or supposed to be at least,
you're
one of the best
2
teams
seed. Come on,
in the NFC. The 2 seed, you got a first round bye. You have everything in your favor. You're going on the road, but your record says otherwise.
Was it not cold enough for you guys?
Yeah, warmer weather, you would think, but it just simply was right out of the gates. The Niners just being aggressive, wanting it more. The Packers you almost feel like, it almost like Aaron Rodgers thought they had it in the bag even before the game, maybe.
Weird.
Just not, just punching it in the face. And you got to especially do that to a Niner team, 1 and 2 in a game like that. With everything on the line, you're one game away from the Super Bowl. And the Niners wanted it more. You could see it. They were hungry. And the Packers were just kind of sluggish, nonchalant. They just looked defeated right after the first drive.
Is there anything in that first quarter, Steven, as we look for a turning point, as we look for a moment where the course of the game took off from there? Or was it just that immediate avalanche?
I believe it was the Packers' third drive. They came away with negative 11 yards.
That'll probably do it.
And the Niners defense came out as soon as their first possession came. They got 25 yards, which it's not.
Yeah.
It was a slower. It wasn't a 3 and out. I think they got a first down. They got a second, another first down. But after that, there was nothing, and that defense just swarmed, and they really just took the life out of the Packer offense. And then you have all of a sudden these chunk run plays on when the Packers are on defense, Niners on offense, and that right there is just defeating because you're not even able to get and put hands on the running back, and he's being able to gash you for 12 plus yards down the field. You mentioned, was it a 38-yard run by Mostert there in the first quarter? So it really just they were just defeated right in that first quarter, like you mentioned, Chris, 17-0.
Yeah,
and it's just I don't think enough has been talked about. It's been recently talked about these past 2 games, but the Niners tackling on defense. Last year, it was ferocious. Ferocious. This year, it's ferocious.
Okay.
This year is ferocious, and they're just sure tackled. Like I couldn't find the stats this morning looking it up, but if you look at their yards after catch given up, I'm pretty sure it's the first in the league.
Kept it low, yeah.
And so, I just think you add all those things together. You're on the road. It's 17-0. You got Boyz II Men singing the national anthem. You got all red in the stands. You don't see hardly any cheeseheads there. And if you're on the Packers sideline, you're just looking around. You're like, man, it's not our day.
Yeah, and clearly the Packers realize, we might have been 13-3 somehow. But
keyword somehow.
But they've got a gap to close for sure to this Niner team. We saw the Seahawks give them a good run for their money in the divisional round, at least a little bit there at the end especially. So you wonder if you got the second best team in the NFC yesterday or not. Tough call.
Yeah, I think we saw the second best team in the NFC go out in the last round in the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then the third best team in the NFC went out in the last round too. I would say the Minnesota Vikings.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Possibly. And because if you look, there's kind of a big gap when you look on the top few teams and then the middle of the pack and then all the way down the bottom of the NFC. And I just think that also rings true, I think, in the AFC as well. Whereas, you've got these great teams at the top and there's a little bit of a fall off to where the middle teams and the lower teams are beating up on each other to get those records.
So let's flip conferences real quick. Then we'll come back to this game a little bit and talk about the matchup moving forward for Super Bowl. God, what are we in now?
54?
4, thank you.
54?
Yeah, that sounds about right. On the flip side.
As you can see, our internet is moving a little slow here.
No,
today.
I'm just moving slowly. As we flip sides, Titans at Chiefs. Chris, you went out on a limb, thought, hey, I'll pick the underdog. Why not? Because that's what you do. Somebody's got it, right? That's just how these shows work. Now, we gave it a go, but Chiefs took control of this one in the second quarter. But it came out early like, oh, you know what? That Tennessee formula might work. And, then the Niners did almost the exact same formula in their game. It came out working early. Where do things change in this one? This game has clearly tipping point, turning point changes where the Chiefs began to regain momentum out there at Arrowhead. Chris, if you had to find one in this, what is it?
I think it's right here. I'm looking at it. The Chiefs drive with 2:36 left to go in the second quarter when they got that second touchdown, the 20-yard pass to Tyreek Hill. I think that was the turning point. The Titans, like you said, they were coming out of the gates. They scored in the first 3 possessions of the game, a field goal, touchdown, and touchdown. I think Derrick Henry had 32 of his 69 in the first drive. And that just goes to show, that that's been the Titans' success, especially the past month, but especially here in this playoffs. Henry running for around 188, I think it was, heading into this one. Yeah. And just to be held for 30-plus yards for the rest of the game after that first drive, the Titans not scoring after the third drive until 3:15 left to go in the game. Yeah. The Chiefs just adjusted. Good teams adjust, like I said in the previous game against the Packers and the Niners. Good teams adjust, and the Chiefs took the momentum heading into the half, and they ran away with it.
Yeah, especially getting that score right before halftime.
Taking the lead.
For me was definitely sort of pulling the leash kind of tight, making the Titans a little tougher to breathe. That's my tipping point, is that 9-play, 86-yard drive there for a touchdown in a minute 40 makes it 21-17 Kansas City right there. That was the one for me. How about yourself, Ben?
I actually think it was the Mahomes run-in for a touchdown.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
He scrambles. They look like they might have had him dead in the backfield.
Maybe he gets a yard or two.
Yeah, and he's looking, and you see him take a great angle to the sideline, tiptoe, and then realize that there's just real estate in front of him. He just made the guy chasing him miss when he tiptoed the sideline, and then cut it back inside. Another great angle. That's another thing that I don't think gets talked about much with these running quarterbacks. Him and Lamar Jackson, they both take great angles towards the sideline and help use that to their advantage. And you'll hear wide receivers and running backs always talk about taking a good angle to try to avoid the defender. And he does that, I think, just as well as almost anybody on any offensive position on that side of the ball. So that to me, I think, was a turning point, because you saw the defense like whiff and just kind of olay him right into the end zone. Like, this guy, what can we do? What do we have here to stop him?
Took that lead, so we're all kind of talking about that section of plays right there. That drive, and then, boy, the touchdown itself to finish that drive was pretty spectacular. That's a play that'll live in infamy, really, in playoff history. So how did the Chiefs do it? How did they manage to slow down the Titans' run game?
Load the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they
did.
Better,
it was
better.
8 full, yeah.
Yep. Load the box, plug up the gaps, and just making the tackles when need be.
Make Ryan Tannehill beat you.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. They stopped the running game, and they made Ryan Tannehill pass 21-31, 209 with 2 touchdowns. Yeah, but
one was to a lineman.
Exactly. That was a nice play. That was a nice play. Snuck out of nowhere.
Yeah,
good for him. I think he came away.
Second one of the year, I think.
Yeah, second one. And what was it? The heaviest lineman or heaviest person to catch a touchdown pass in the playoffs or in the conference championship. But yeah, like you said, they stopped the running game. They made Ryan Tannehill beat them, and the Chiefs simply adjusted, plugged up, and I think it was, they stopped them after the first drive, made adjustments there in the second quarter, and really tried to make the Titans beat them, and that crowd gets loud, man. Yeah. I mean, going into Arrowhead, you have a 17-7 lead, but you saw what the Texans did. They blew a 24-point lead. Yeah. So the Chiefs run away with that hometown crowd, and they used that once again to their advantage yesterday. And they simply just outplayed once again, did what they needed to do, and took care of business.
Your thoughts on how they shut down Henry?
Yeah, I mean, they did. They loaded the box, and they even cheated the corners in on corner blitzes just because they were literally daring Tannehill to beat them on the outside, and he just couldn't get it done. Mahomes is just generational.
Yeah, that's the difference.
And it's, I spoke last week about possibly turning the page on Aaron Rodgers, and it looks like it could possibly be happening. Right. You can't have a quarterback give up on your team, but you see Mahomes do what Aaron Rodgers used to do, and that was just carry the team. And being able to overcome the deficiencies that they do have on defense, because they do have some defensive deficiencies. Yesterday, I think, was more scheme than talent. Yeah. And, you have a quarterback that will get you out of bad situations. Your defense, puts you in, you got a long field to go, giving up points. Well, that's okay, because you've got a quarterback that can gash for 25, 30 yards at a time with no problem. So I think he really, they had a great scheme yesterday. I think the scheme was way more effective than what the actual talent is. And then Mahomes is just Mahomes.
I think one of the big things too on that defense, they didn't allow him to get past the first level. And I think, Henry, once he gets past that first line of defense, he's trouble. I mean, you saw that in the Ravens game, bounce off a couple linebackers or DB, and he's off to the races.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did. They stopped him at the line. They did what they needed to do, and they plugged up the box.
So Chiefs win this one, 35-24. They will go to their first Super Bowl since
1969.
Yes, exactly. Super Bowl 4.
It's a good year.
Defeat of the Minnesota Vikings. So Hank Stram and the boys there of those matriculating the ball downfield. First game at least had some dramatic moments on Championship Sunday as a whole, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily I hadn't gone to the watch party I was going to, so I was able to watch the first game almost in its entirety. Of course, I cut out the last part of the fourth quarter because why not? And
what are you doing at that point?
And yesterday's game number 2, NFC Championship game. As soon as I saw Boys to Men come out sing that national anthem, I was like, "Oh man, it's our day! It's our day today." I took a selfie with them singing at the TV because why not? It's Boys to Men.
Gotcha. But, I guess since Philly wasn't in it, had to get them to. They were like, "We want to sing somewhere."
They were in their Niner gear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they started singing. They said it sounds smooth.
They did, and it was.
Started a group, and here they are, kicking it just for you, Bab.
There you go.
Go ahead.
I've been in love with I had the cassette tapes back in 1994.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I mean, and so the game was getting out of hand.
Yeah.
But it is Aaron Rodgers, and I still was paying attention to the game. Everybody at the watch party I was at was having a good time.
Sure.
By this time, it was getting out of hand. That's just the best way to put it. When you're at a watch party, alcohol is flowing.
Oh yeah.
Food. They had a nacho bar, so we had melted cheese in a crock pot. I put some of that melted cheese on some chicken, some fried chicken. It was like
Did you fondue or no? Did you?
I didn't fondue because they had that there, and it was just if they're gonna be having a nacho bar,
that took care of
fondue is just gonna be a little bit
just
more
overkill. Yeah.
But if you follow me on Twitter, you saw me with my fondue all week. I need to recover.
Got an entire wedge in your arteries right now.
Hey, but you know what? That's okay. Quest for 6 arteries.
I started off. I did a little bouncing around Vallejo for my Championship Sunday. I watched the first game at home, and then as the Niners game got going, a little bit before kickoff, started off at the front room. Lovely.
Oh, there you go.
Here in Vallejo. Little Mare Island Brew. That was the second quarter. Got a flight. That was nice. Then finished at Gentleman Jim's with a happy Niner crowd for sure over there. But it left you wanting a little more, didn't it, Chris? That second game. Yeah.
It did. It did, Tim. I was so disappointed. I mean, these games, like you said, the first game was kind of for the first half majority, and second half you just kind of knew that the Chiefs were going to win.
Chiefs were tightening their grip.
Exactly. And then the Packers game. I mean, after the first quarter, I just was kind of like, there's no way the Niners are going to blow this lead.
Yeah.
There's just no way. And sure enough, 27 to nothing at the half, and I think that's when a lot of people just turned off the TV, started mingling, and really enjoying the party instead of being so tuned into the TV.